Yeah, good evening, everyone. Right. Last session, we discussed about how we can deal with. So the concept we learned about how do we deal with form builder service. Form builder service. In reactive forms, we learned how to create a basic form. We learned how to create an nested form, and we learned how to create a form with the service, but still some changes are there here. Actually, what is form builder? So as I already told you, it is a service for configuring form and its elements. Service means it uses a singleton pattern for form and elements. It uses a singleton pattern for form and elements. So form builder, you can say it comprises of various methods. We have the methods like, we have a method like, what is the method? One is group is the method. Another one, control is the method. Control is the method. And we have an array is the method. So group refers to group refers configures group configures form, and control configures it configures elements like we have input, we have like select, we have like text area. All these are control. Array configures a set of controls. Let's see how. Already basic syntax I given here. So what we have to do into the constructor, we need to use private form builder. It is of what type? Form builder type. Now we need to create a reference, that is FRM register. It is of what type? fd.group. Usually this group contains control. So suppose field, it is defined as fv.control. If you are defining child elements also, child forms, so we have to give a child form, and this child form is fb.group. Again, that group contains again some options here, right? These are the options. So this group contains again field and fb.control. What is the advantage of this? As we discussed, the advantage, right? What is the advantage of this? It will not allow to overload the memory, and the memory allocated for the form will be used by the controls. It is good for designing continuous operations. So where all controls needs the same memory. If every control is having an individual memory, then dynamic issues will come. Already yesterday I told you that. Now, how to define the group and use that? How we can configure the group and how we can handle the group? Yesterday I showed you user interface will not change, only the controller logic will change. This is the logic we designed. Only this part will change. Rest of options will be same. So here we have reactive demo dot component dot ts. In that only this part will be changing. What we done, we replaced by using the form builder. Complete example I will give you. This is just syntax. In this, what else pending here is, we want to upload, so we want to just put one element in such a way which can dynamically change. That means now what we do is, here I will add another field called photos. Photos are product related photos. Photos is what? This dot fb dot, it is an array. So photos is an array of what? It is an array of controls. Form array is an array of controls. We have to create an array of how many controls by default you want. By default I want one control. Later if I want, I can add. Then if you want one default control, what you have to do, fb dot this dot fb dot control. One control I kept by default. One control we are configuring default. So our form contains one form group primary. Another second form group is related to vendors. And we have a form array called photos. Why we created that as array? Because user can add more if he wants, depending on situation. That means we must able to add elements and remove elements into the form dynamically. We must able to add and remove elements dynamically. For that, we can define these options, right? So see the logic here, how to handle now. For example, this we want to access and use. And you know that if you are trying to access any property and you want to use any property, better create an accessor for that. What is the accessor? Get photos. Photos is an accessor. What it should return? This dot frm register dot controls dot photos. And photos is an array. That means we have to return as what? Form array. We need to configure as form array. That means now this photos is what type? That photos is what type? It is an form array type. So we created an accessor so that we can access the photos directly. We can access the photo directly. So we will do one thing now. Photos array is present. In that array by default, how many elements are there? In that array by default, one element is there. We can add elements. We can remove elements. We will see how we can add and remove elements. For example, now here I am designing the interface for this. We need to create interface for this. In the form here, I will create, this is the form. Okay, I will snipe this. We will create a simple container. In the container, we will put a class as a row. This is the row, and we have a div. This is the class as call some 2 or 3, 4, suppose. In this, we will put all that logic that we have. That is one column. This is all the logic that we have in right side column. After that column, okay. And here we have another div. This will have a call, class call some 6, 8. So you have the output in this way now. Let's open this. This is the form. Left side we are having. Right side here we want to give an option as another data list. We will give data term upload photo. That is the option we are giving there, upload photo. That is actually related to form only. Anywhere inside the form you can add, but I am giving in a separate location. So class margin top as 4. It will display that here. Okay. Here I need to give the option for uploading the photos, right? So here upload photo, I will use a data definition. Here I need a file uploading control. File uploading control I want, but that control should able to duplicate by itself. That means I want one control now. If I want, I must able to remove it. And if I want, I must able to add new things. Then what we will do is, we will create an iteration. What is that iteration here? We'll put a div. In the div, we will write here, what is it? ng for. What is the collection? let item of. Collection is what? Photos. Photos is an array of controls. That means we have to use photos dot controls. That is the array. That means it will access all the controls present in that array. That means now every item is a control. Every item is a control. What we have to do now? Every item need an ID also. Here we will give. So here we will give another. So let I is equal to index. You know ng for have index. Now here we are designing input type is equal to file. That means for every photo, a file upload should come. Every photo file upload should come. Beside this, we will put a button called upload. Upload button we will keep. And important here is this must have a name. We have to give form control name. Form control name is equal to I. That means first control will be 1, second control will be 2, 3, because they can dynamically add and remove. They can dynamically add and remove. So you can see now here one control is there. File upload control, because in the form array, how many controls are there? 2. One control is there, it is displaying. Now how to add elements into array, how to remove elements from array. You know that. For example, what I will do here, I will add a button. I will say more. And I will just give the button as more. That means there will be a button more. I will give this button style as class btn and btn link. Actually, it looks like a hyperlink. But it is actually, so I said more, right? Then it is clickable. And when I click, one more file upload should come. When I click, one more file upload should come. That means we must able to add a new control. One more file upload should come. Then how? It's very simple. We have to write event for this button. What is it? Click. Add controls is the method. Now what we will do? We will go and write the method And what is the method? Public add controls. Add controls is the method. This method have to push a new control into array. That means this dot, what is the array name? Photos. Photos is an array. Na? Into that we have to use what? Push. What to push? A new control you have to push. This dot fb dot what? Control. You are pushing a new control into it. That's it. Now see what happens when I click on more, then one more control will come here. You can see. We don't want this as a submit button. It is submitting now. We have to give button type as what? Button. That will be better. And we will keep some gap also between them. That means for every class I will give as, so margin bottom 2. Some gap will be there. Now I click on more, then one more will come. I click on more, then one more will come. That means dynamically your form is changing. Your form is adding more controls into it. If I want to remove, that's very simple. You know how do we remove, right? What you can do. So beside it, we will put a button. This button, I will put a span and class bi trash. And button have a class called btn. And you can see actually trash button will come like this. That is the trash button. I click on more, one more will come. I click on more, one more will come. And I click on this trash, it must able to remove it. You know how do we remove element from an array? Already we learned that concept also. So on this button, what we have to do? Click. So remove control. And which control to remove? We have to pass the current index number. Because you know how to delete any particular item from an iteration. Already we learned that technique. We created a table. In that any row you can delete that. Already I showed you that mechanism. So here what we have to do? We have to send the index. I is index number. We are sending the index number. So here what we need to do? We have to add public. What is it? Remove control. Remove control. Here we need to collect the ID. ID is what type? Number. So that means as index actually. Yeah? So this is index as number. Any formal name you can give. We have to remove that index number item. You know that. This dot, what is the collection? Photos. Photos dot what? Photos dot remove at. Remove at. Remember, it is not ordinary array. It is an form array. Ordinary array have push, pop, shift, unshift, splice like that. Form array items are removed by using remove at. Items are removed by using remove at. Remove at which index number? You have to give the index number. That's it. So generally, if it is an ordinary array, we use splice option. If it is an array of form, then you don't have a splice. Push is there, but to remove, we have to use remove at. Remove at. So you see now, when I click on this more, then it will get more. I click on delete, it will be deleted now. You can see. That means now form can customize. Form can add according to your requirement. Now you are adding more, these controls will come. Right, we must able to add and remove the controls dynamically into the form. This we are doing by using which concept? Form builder. By using form builders, form array, you can configure like this. If you know this technique, then you don't need to ask any question like how to add different controls. You know how to manage an array. Now working with different controls, you just think about it. You try that. For example, I will give you one task, try. Right? The task is, what you need to try is simple. Actually, you ask here, suppose you design an interface. You design an interface. Interface is nothing but you have to create an interface. Interface is, try this. Here we have, you need to option field name. Okay, and here we have type. And you put a option called add. So field name, type, and this add is a button actually. Add is a button. For field name, you put, so here a text box. For field name, you put a text box here. Right? And for type, you put any type here. Type means you put a drop down better. Huh? So for field name, you put a type here, drop down. And this is the add button. We are having that add button. Now what is the point is, field name, I am selecting here as name. Field name is name. Type, user can select string or user can select number. User can select as a boolean. User can choose the type. It is a string or a number or a boolean like that. Now what I want is, below, I want you to create a form. I want you to create a form. Understood? In this form, so you selected field name is name and you selected string and click on add. Then if field name is name and it is string and you clicked add, it should get me input type text. Understood? It should get me input type text. Suppose that means it should add a text box dynamically. Got my point? So if, and here in this, what should be there? It should show an option. Field name is what? Name. And beside that, a text box should come. Now later, user entered some age and he selected number and add. Then another control should be added here. That control should be what? Age. What is the type? Input type as what? Number. So you must able to add this dynamically. If I select boolean, then what it should be? Some stock or something. What should be the boolean? Input type should be some checkbox if it is boolean. That means you must able to add the controls dynamically according to what user is selecting. So what you have to do here, you have to create a form array. Am I right? Into the array, you have to push. But how do you push control into it? Based on control type. Based on control type. If it is a string type, text box. If it is a number type, number box. If it is a boolean type, boolean checkbox. If you can try this, very, very good. And it's not easy. It's not easy. Little bit logically you should think about this, then you can achieve. But it is not so simple and easy also. But with the knowledge of what you learned up to now, it's easy if you think in a correct order. Right? You can easily achieve this. I will upload this, you try, okay? So this task I will upload there. So this is the desktop, yeah. So Angular task. This is the task I will upload into Classroom. You try it. You try to achieve that. So this is example. In this example, so let me copy this example here. So that is the example for adding elements and removing elements. Reactive demo dot component dot ts. Reactive demo dot component dot ts. Complete logic I am giving here. This is the complete. Another one is reactive demo dot component dot ht. Let's paste this. This is the complete HTML we have. That is the complete. This is the complete example of what you have seen, how to use a form builder. In the form builder, we are using a control, we are using an array, and we are using an group. We are dynamically adding the elements and removing. Depending on the situation, we can create a form. That means we can even design in such a way that user mentions what is the fields and data types. According to that, form will be generated. That is what the advantage of reactive form, right? So this is basic one concept of working with the reactive. Here one more option you need to know: validating reactive forms. How do we validate reactive forms? How do we set the validation for reactive forms? Actually, reactive forms validation. So reactive forms module provides validators. It provides validators array. It provides validators array. Actually, validators is a collection. It is a collection of validators is a collection of validation properties, like we have required, like min length, we have like pattern, we have like max length. These are all the properties. So by using these properties, we can easily handle the validation. What is advantage is, so no need to configure validation properties in UI. No need to configure validation properties in UI for elements. Everything you have to define inside the controller. However, error messages you need to show. Error messages related logic will be there. Error messages related logic means if name not entered, what to show. If min length is not satisfying, what to show. All such error messages we will display. But validation properties you don't need to configure in the UI. That means now your form becomes little more better in terms of validation also. How we do that? Syntactically simple. We have to create fb dot control, and in the control we have to define value, and we have to use an array of what? Validators dot, we have to access the validation. What is the validation required? Means we have validator property. Required is a property. Comma, we can use validators, and we have pattern is a validation. Like this we can manage. So if it is not a form builder, then what we do? We write form control. Form control, you will have a value, and we will have a validators array. You will have an array of validators. That means here same thing you need to define. Validators required, validators pattern, same thing you need to define. You can use in both ways. So for form builder, you can define, or individually you can configure for form control. Let's see one simple example for that, right? So the simple example for this, let's add one component. I will add a component here. So in the components, open in terminal, ng generate component. What is it? Suppose reactive validation. Skip test. Okay. Reactive validation, I am adding a component here. Let's set up this in the startup. Yeah, in the components, here app module, reactive validation component. In index, reactive validation. I'm giving hyphen, right. Reactive validation. Okay. You can see reactive validation is working fine. Okay. Now let's create a form here, either form builder or form group, anything you can use. Reactive validation. Let's go to the TS file, and here you need to import certain things. So first we need to import. So private FB, it is of what type? Form builder. From Angular forms, we are importing form builder. Okay. Now we need to import one more here, validators. So validators we need to import. Now you need to design the form. Let's create a form. So public FRM register is equal to, so this dot FB dot group. We are creating a group. And in this group, we are creating, so name, suppose I said user name, and username is this dot FB dot control, and it is empty value. Here we will put validators, and we need to access validators dot, what is the validation required? That is the validation. And any another validation. So validators dot min length. Min length, you need a value 4, because min length you need to tell the range how much. These are validators. Actually, you can go to the definition of these validators. Right click and go to definition. This is validators, and validators have a lot of validations. So it have min is the validation. So it have max is the validation. Required is the validation. All these are validations. Required, true. So many will be there. You can get all the information from there. So here we have validation for this. Next I am giving some mobile. So this dot FB dot control, I am giving, so array validators dot, one is required. Another one, I will give validators dot pattern. Pattern requires a regular expression in a string form. Regular expression I am giving slash plus 91 and square brace, and actually it is slash D and 10 digits number. Now this is the validation pattern we are defining. But here some issues will be there. Whenever you are giving regular expressions, so regular expression, I hope you people know, regular expression have escape issues. because escape sequence characters will be there. You know already in string type of JavaScript. Regular expressions are usually they are kept in 2 slashes. In 2/ we write regular expression. Generally, when you write regular expression, we write in slash in general JavaScript. Here, regular expression is ordinary string. It is saying, I am giving a small string here. Okay. Now we need to attach this. We need to attach this to the interface. Let's go in the HTML. Here, how do we configure? So div. So I will give class container fluid. So fluid, and here we will keep a heading, and I just keep a form. Okay. And in this we have a heading register user. Okay. And here we need to bind data list, data term, and we have username and data definition. Input type is text. Input type is text. And another data term, that is mobile. And data definition, input type is equal to text. Now we have a button to submit. So we have register. Now we will bind here. Form is binded by using form group. So form group is FRM register. And for text box, form control name. Form control name is equal to user name. And for this form control name, and it is mobile. That's it. You don't need to write validations. Validation means you don't need to write required min length here, because already you mentioned them in the controller and you binded that to the control here in the UI. Those validations will work here now. Earlier, already we saw that. Earlier what we saw, text box contains all the validation also. Required, min length, every validation property we have to mention inside the elements. Now you don't need to do that. But errors we need to do. How you will show errors? That is compulsory. We will put a data definition. When this should display, when username is invalid. Error concept is same. That means we will use what? ng if. What is the condition? Condition is username dot what? Invalid. Now here this username is invalid. So you can see now here it is showing an option. Username does not exist in a reactive validation component because it is not directly available. It is available in a form. That means we have to access with reference of form. With reference of form. That means FRM register, in FRM register dot value, in that dot value username. That is the lengthy hierarchy we have to use. And you know the solution how to handle that now. What you will do? We will create a simple what? We will create an accessor for what? Username. What it should return? This dot. So this dot FRM register dot controls dot username as which one? Form control. It will return as form control. We need another one. Get what? Mobile. So mobile, and it should return this dot FRM register controls dot mobile as a form control. Now these accessors allows us to access that and use directly. If username is invalid, then you have two messages to display. Class, I will give text danger. Two messages you need to display. One message is username required. required. What is another message? Another message is name too short, like this way. Now when to display first message, we have to use an ng if what is it, username dot, we have errors dot, what is the error type is what, required. Already this concept we know, this will never change. Validating services will never change, the validating process will change. Validating services are same services as you have seen, same services like pristine, dirty, touched, untouched, everything same. Only the point is where you configure the form. That is why I told you na approach. Why it is called as an approach, I explained very detailedly. Because validations are same and the behavior is same, then why you have two different approaches? In one approach, we configure everything in UI. In another approach, we configure majority in controller. But in both approaches, showing message is same, designing a control is same, but setting property for control will be changing. Control will not change. You have to use HTML controls only, but configuring the control will change now, right? That differences, that is the reason we call this as reactive form model driven approach or template driven approach, right? So messages are same, here also same, you have to use ng if. You can write all conditions. We learned now, if form is submitted and it is invalid, or text box is touched and it is invalid, all concepts are same, right? Now we will put here another username dot errors. So errors, what is the error? Error is what? Min length. Min length is the error. Min length is the error. Now the same approach I need to copy. I will put here. And this time this is related to what? Mobile. And mobile dot errors. So here we will say mobile required. Okay. And here this is which error? Pattern error. For pattern error we need to display. So invalid mobile. And here we need to change. This is mobile errors. Mobile errors we are configuring. Conditions are similar actually. Suppose here, so we are writing the condition FRM register dot what? Submitted and you are configuring. You see now FRM register also have an issue. What is the issue with FRM register? Already FRM register is there. But here we have a submitted issue. It says doesn't exist on form group. It doesn't exist on form group. You have to create a reference, and through the reference you need to access. So if you are using touched option, it is same. What is the touched option? Username. Username is what? Touched. We can define that. But FRM register, it is not directly accessible now. Why? I will tell you in the posting concept while discussing about two-way binding posting, means into the database we will design. I will tell you that approach, how to create a reference for that, because for a form also we have to configure a reference. Through that reference we need to access. Another example I will show you for that, because this example doesn't suit for that. We will design one more example. Through that reference we can handle. I will show you. Initially we are using this option. What is it? This is mobile dot what? Touched. Mobile dot touched, and mobile is invalid. We are configuring this. And now you can see, so what is the problem? Any issue is there? Let's check. Some errors are there. Let's check the errors. Pattern error is there, right? So see the pattern here. Escape issues are coming. I will use an double slash. So that will be fine. It is okay. Because usually patterns are to be enclosed in double slash. I told you in the beginning itself, right? JavaScript in HTML, if you are writing pattern directly string. In JavaScript or TypeScript, you are writing the pattern. You have to enclose the patterns in a double slash. Right now, here we are writing this one. I clicked inside this username and click outside, then it says required. And I am entering name too short. Now it is fine. I'm entering mobile. Mobile is also, you can see it is required. And mobile you are entering, then that is, so that is fine. That means it will get that, how many digits? 9, 8, 7, yeah, some 10 digits. Now this is will be fine. What is it? It is showing invalid mobile, some pattern wrong. What is that pattern? Some pattern issue is coming here. That means these escape issues are coming. We will do one thing. Exponent we will use and we will put in dollar. Exponent slash ending with some issue is there. Let's check. Pattern is same, yeah. So that is mobile required. That is okay. So plus 91987654321 it should take. Let's check. Is this slash escaping? Somewhere in the pattern, let's check. Slash D I will use. We will verify is it working. Required some A, invalid mobile, some 5. So pattern is not accepting this. Let's check the pattern format. It is a string validation function. Slash plus 91 slash D and 10 digits. Okay. It is not expecting this actually. Directly this one slash plus 91 and slash D 10 digits. Okay. So this is the correct one. So mobile and entered the mobile, it will be fine. Actually, it is not expecting double quotes. Double quotes. In the method they mentioned as a string type, right? It is a string type or what type? Regular expression. In JavaScript, string means directly you can define a string if there are normal characters. If there are any special characters, regular expression. Regular expression means not in double quotes. Regular expression must be directly kept in double slash. Double slash. That means you need to keep the regular expression directly in double slash. That is JavaScript regular expressions, right? These are the validation options. Now it is working fine. Now you entered the name, it is not there. You entered some details, now it is okay. If anything is wrong here, it should say invalid mobile and correct, then it is fine. This is basic of validation. So what difference you find here is, the difference is your UI is clean without any validation attributes mentioned in your control. What is advantage of this is you can add validations dynamically. You can change the validations, but however, whenever validation is changed, the validation errors also you have to change. But one advantage is you don't need to set validations in UI. You have to just configure the validations in the controller. You can change the validation limits. You can change the validation attributes if you want in your controller level. Here we can do that. So this is an example for that. So what are the options we are having? So this is an example. So reactive validation, dot component dot ts. Reactive validation component.ts. This is a simple one. Here also, for every purpose, you don't have validation. We have to write custom validations. If required is not there for a drop down or some other element, you have to manually write again. That is common. That means you need to configure an event, and on that event you need to define. Right. So this is another one, reactive validation dot component dot html. This is the HTML code. Showing error messages is same. Showing error messages is same. But in the UI, you don't need to write the validation properties. Here, one more technique is regularly used by developers. That also you have to note. So if you are using Angular validation services, then disable HTML form validations. Do you know how to disable HTML form validations? If you are using Angular validation services, you have to disable HTML form validations. How to disable HTML form validations? Do you know HTML5 have by default validations? How to disable those validations? Because both should not work, any one, either HTML or Angular. How to disable validations of HTML? Don't know? So by using no validate attribute for form. I hope you learned in HTML, form have an attribute called no validate. This attribute will bypass HTML validations. Then you can use only Angular. Otherwise, both validations will fire up. HTML validations will fire up and this general validations also will fire up. Services. Any one is enough. You don't need both. It will save the time. That means actually in HTML you might have learned that when you design any form in HTML, when you design any form, you see this is email, and observe carefully. I am running this page. Input type email is going to verify email format. Some David, and I say submit, it shows a message because it is verifying email. How to disable this validation? To disable this validation, you have to just go to form and set no validate. Form have an attribute called no validate. This will suppress all the HTML validations. Why to suppress HTML validations? Because already you are writing validations manually in Angular. Then both should not work. Any one is enough. Then developers have this habit. Everybody will not write like that, but majority we recommend this because it saves the time. If you are using any HTML validation inputs, automatically they will be suppressed. Now see here, when I say no validate, I entered some David, and I am not using any @Gmail or anything. Submit, it will submit. That means now validations are bypassed. By using which attribute we do that? No validate. That is a very common thing in HTML. If this is not defined, then it will verify that and show. And if it is defined, no validate is defined, then it will not verify, it will submit. Any HTML validation can be suppressed by using no validate. So generally when you design the form, we have an habit of writing the form in this way. Form, we have form group. So, and form group is what? FRM register. And here we say no validate. You will see this regularly. You will see this regularly, people using it. Because this is important to suppress the HTML validations. Right? That is one option. Now, another important one logical concept I will give you. Try to get a solution for that and tell me in the next session. Another logical concept I will tell you. So in experience level interviews, they ask this very regularly. I will leave it for you for thinking about it and get me the solution. The first thing they ask here is, can we have multiple submit buttons in a form? We can have multiple submit buttons in a form. It is possible. Yesterday already I showed you na. Every button will work like a submit. Now the question is, why you need multiple submit buttons? If it is allowed, means there might be some meaning for that. If it is not valid, then it will show error. But it is allowing means there might be some use for that. What is the use of multiple submit buttons? Multiple submit buttons actually, they allow you actually, they allow to handle various actions. That means on one button click, one action, another button click, another. But here the tricky question is, all submit buttons use same form submit event. They use same submit event. All submit buttons will use same submit event. Then how they perform different? different functionality. You may have 100 submit buttons, but submit event is only one. Then how they will perform different functionality? Suppose you given one insert button, one edit button, delete button. Insert button should insert, delete button should delete. Both are in form. Event is only one. Then how they will perform two different functionality? On insert click, it should do some other functionality. On delete click, it should do another functionality. But you see in a form, how many submit events you can write? Only one submit event. You put 4 buttons. All 4 buttons use same function. Then how they can do different functionality? Understood the question? Right? This is very tricky question, but it's a very simple point actually. How they can do different functionality? If you can send the information about that button to that event. Am I right? We learned event arguments now. Event arguments. In event arguments, what you can do? In event arguments, you can send information about the object to the function by using which operator, which argument, $this. Remember that? That means you can give a method name here. Any method name you can give. Into that, you need to able to send the submit button value. Understood? Then you collect that submit button value and you have to write if submit button value is insert, then do this operation. If it is delete, do another operation. Can you try this? That means your challenge is sending the information about the button that is clicked inside the form. But remember, that is not very easy because actually if I send here, so $event, am I right? $event, then it will get form related details. Because current object is form, na? But you need to send which details? Submit button details. You must able to send the submit button details. This was the question asked at a very extreme experience level. Recently, one of our previous class people were attending team lead role job as a web developer, team lead role. For them, this question is asked. At a team lead level, this question was asked. And this is a very common question. Actually, this is a very common concept and this is a very regular question also for experienced people. So this is something very important because now you need to able to identify how to get the information about the button which is clicked inside the form. That is your challenge. Can you try? Right? Concept understood? You have to write a method. That method should collect the information about the button that you clicked inside the form. On which event? Non-button click event. On which event? Form submit event. Button click event, it is easy. One step only. On button click, you can send button details now. I want this to happen on submit click. On submit click. So I will give you some hint like, suppose we have, one button, we have another button. Every button will have a name or ID or anything. This name or ID, if you can send into the form, submit event, then you can collect it and based on that, you can manage the functionality. Can you try that? but that is not directly available. You have to try that, right? For that, what you have to do, you have to write a loop. In the loop, you need to verify. So which property is returning which option. Based on that, we need to handle. Once put your brain, try to explore this and try to get a solution for this. Otherwise, I will explain how do we handle that. Okay. But this is very popular in interviews. How can we have multiple submit buttons? If we can have multiple submit buttons, how to manage those buttons in a form? How you will handle different functionalities on that? That is the question here, right? You can try that. You can try that option. Now, once we are good with this, now we can go into the concept of what? Routing. That we'll see tomorrow, right? In tomorrow's session, we will continue with this, right? This is enough. You need to practice all this, right? And tomorrow we will see what is the concept of routing. So with routing, we can build single page applications, right? There we will see how to work with routing. But here one problem is there now. If we create a new project, now current version is Angular 15 now. Current latest stable version is Angular 15. If you are trying to add any new libraries, you are doing some additions, anything, now you are going to get a new version related concept. So that is the reason when you are practicing. So once check which version you are using, right? I will tell you how to upgrade from the old version to new. We will discuss about that. But if you are newly creating a project now, Angular 14 will not come. Angular 15 is now ready. You will get Angular 15 project. And in Angular 15, some more little bit changes are there, which I will explain at the end. Means we will create another Angular 15 project. I will explain those changes. Okay. Then Monday I will give Angular 15 idea. Right. Tomorrow, as we will see this routing and all. By this weekend, we will finish all the routing part and single page applications. Then we can go into others. Okay. So tomorrow we'll continue then. Right.